All right, so today we're going to deep dive into a Twilight character you might not have given much thought to.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it is. Demetri, you sent over some pretty fascinating analysis of him.
Yeah.
And, well, let me tell you, there's more to this shadowy tracker than meets the eye, right?
Oh, absolutely.
We're going to explore Demetri as like this philosophical problem,
Right.
his role in the Volturi's aesthetic,
Right.
and also what it must do to your mind to track others for like centuries.
Right. Demetri, he's one of the Volturi guards.
Yeah.
Now, for anyone who might need a quick recap, the Volturi, they're essentially vampire royalty,
Yeah.
enforcing the law among their kind. And Demetri's gift, his special ability, is tracking.
Right.
He can find literally anyone, anywhere,
Wow.
just by concentrating on their mental signature.
That's intense.
Oh, it is.
Yeah. But the source material goes deeper,
Oh, yeah.
It asks, is Demetri actually truly free? Or is he a slave to this gift, to the Volturi?
That's a great question.
Right. It gets into some pretty heavy philosophical territory.
Exactly. It really throws that whole, freedom versus determinism debate into sharp relief.
Yeah.
Demetri has to track. It's like his power compels him to.
It's like he's programmed.
Right.
Yeah.
But does that then mean that he has no free will?
Right.
It's like he's on this predetermined path.
Yeah.
Like his whole existence is defined by this one ability.
Think of it like a world-class musician,
Okay.
But they can only play one perfect song.
Right.
Technically brilliant.
Yeah.
But is there any joy in it when the outcome is, it's already preordained?
Yeah, no,
Yeah, it's like, where's the creativity?
Right, and for Demetri, it's not just a song.
Right.
It's his life, his entire existence, forever serving the Volturi, finding their targets, no room for any kind of personal growth outside of that.
And this is where the concept of narrative autonomy, which the source brings up, becomes really crucial.
Okay.
Unlike someone like Arrow or Edward, Demetri's story, it serves someone else's narrative.
Oh, interesting.
He's not driving the plot. He's a tool being used.
Yeah.
So does an eternally servile life,
Right.
even one with superpowers,
Yeah.
does it actually have any real value? What do you think about that?
Whoa. That's a heavy question to ponder.
It is.
Yeah. But let's move on to something maybe a bit more visual.
Okay.
The source material, it describes Demetri's vibe as, get this, elegance and darkness.
Oh, wow.
Which I have to admit is pretty spot on.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
Right.
Demetri's looks, his demeanor, they absolutely feed into the whole Volturi aesthetic.
Yeah.
He's handsome, he's composed, even alluring in a way, but with this undercurrent of menace always there.
Right.
And it kind of reflects the Volturi themselves.
Yeah.
Beautiful, powerful, but ultimately corrupt and deadly.
It's like, like a beautifully crafted antique weapon.
You can admire the workmanship, it's gorgeous. But deep down that it was designed to kill.
Right.
Or like a predator, in the wild with those gorgeous markings.
Yeah.
But those are nature's warning signs.
Yeah.
And those are often the most striking.
Precisely. And casting Charlie Bewley in the films, brilliant choice.
Oh, yeah. He was,
He embodied that duality so perfectly. Charming, but undeniably dangerous.
Yeah, he was really good. Speaking of dangerous, let's think about Demetri's position within the Volturi.
Okay.
He's clearly essential to them.
Right.
But also totally subservient. Nobody else can track like him. But he's still, just a guard.
And this is where Demetri's situation, I think, gets really chillingly relevant to, the real world.
Yeah, how so?
His case isn't just like talent being commodified.
Right.
It's something way more profound. He's not employed by the Volturi. He's fundamentally owned by them. They haven't just bought his skills. They've basically repurposed his very essence to suit their agenda.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It's intense.
That's a good point.
Right?
It's like those, those horror stories you hear about artists who get trapped in these like exploitative contracts.
Right.
They create the value, but they don't own the rights to any of it.
Exactly.
It's like their talent's literally stolen and then profited from. Makes you wonder if anyone in that position, really feels free, even if they're outwardly successful.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right.
And with Demetri, his usefulness, to the Volturi, that's what makes him potentially dangerous.
Oh, how so?
Arrow, he's famously paranoid.
Right.
He needs his guard to be loyal.
Yeah.
But Demetri, with his knowledge, his abilities,
Yeah.
he could actually become a serious threat if he ever rebelled.
Now that's an interesting thought.
Right.
The source actually hints at some, like, underlying distrust between Aro and his guard. Could Demetri actually turn against the Volturi?
That's worth exploring.
Yeah.
I mean, the text doesn't explicitly say it.
Right.
But there are these, like, hints of power struggles within the Volturi.
Interesting.
Demetri, a prisoner of his own talent, might very well be seeking a different path.
It's a question to consider, for sure.
Yeah.
If you are constantly being used by, those in power,
Yeah.
wouldn't a part of you just crave something more?
Absolutely.
Right.
And that kind of brings us to the psychological effects
Okay.
of Demetri's tracking ability.
Yeah.
Imagine having this power
Yeah.
constantly active.
Okay, yeah, let's dive into Demetri's head a bit.
All right. Remember, Demetri, he doesn't just follow, like, footprints. He senses the essence of someone's mind, their tenor, as the books call it.
Right.
It's incredibly invasive.
Wow.
It's like being constantly bombarded
Yeah.
by the thoughts and emotions of everyone he's ever tracked.
I mean, that sounds utterly exhausting.
It would be.
How do you even maintain a sense of self with that constant influx, of other minds?
It does raise a fascinating question.
Yeah.
Does Demetri, like, dissociate to cope with it all? Is he constantly compartmentalizing his own mind
Right.
just to shield himself from that overwhelming input?
So he's almost like a high-functioning multiple personality.
In a way, yeah.
But instead of, like, different personas, it's different mental connections that he's constantly juggling.
Yeah, it's a lot to handle.
Right. That adds a whole other layer of complexity to him.
It does, and it makes his rare moments of, like, genuine connection, like with Felix, for example,
Right.
all the more poignant,
Yeah.
It suggests this longing for something beyond his role as a tracker.
Yeah.
This desire for actual connection, even if it is with another vampire.
It's like what, what some soldiers with PTSD describe.
Okay.
After experiencing so much sensory overload
Yeah.
and trauma,
Right.
they have to just shut down emotionally, just to function.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Could Demetri be experiencing something similar? But it's not trauma for him.
Right.
It's his constant, unavoidable connection to other minds.
That's a really, really insightful parallel.
Yeah.
It highlights that potential psychological burden Demetri carries.
Yeah, for sure. And that's
yeah.
where, like, the fan interpretations, they get really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Even though Demetri is a relatively minor character in the books, fans have expanded his backstory.
Right.
And, like, his inner world significantly.
That's cool.
The source mentions how there are all these different takes on Demetri. Like, is he this tragic figure forced into servitude?
Right.
Or is he like this cunning manipulator?
Oh, interesting.
Maybe even enjoying his power a little bit. But it's fascinating how people project their own ideas about, like, free will, destiny onto him.
Right.
It's like he's this blank canvas of a character.
That's a good way to put it.
And you know what? I think that's part of what makes him so compelling.
Yeah.
He's not just this, like, one-dimensional bad guy. He's a figure with hidden depths that I think, we're still trying to understand.
Exactly. And it circles back to that theme of immortality we were discussing earlier.
Right. Yeah.
Demetri's eternal existence, combined with his unique power, gives him this perspective on time and human behavior that most of us can't even, fathom.
Right.
He's witnessed empires rise and fall, countless lives play out, all while silently observing, tracking, maybe even influencing events.
Okay, now I'm getting chills.
It's pretty intense, yeah.
He's like this ancient, almost mythical figure,
Yeah.
watching humanity from the sidelines.
Right.
What do you think he's learned from all those centuries of observation?
That's a good question.
What insights into, like, the human condition has he gleaned from constantly being inside other people's minds?
Maybe he's come to understand, like, the fundamental motivations driving human behavior. The desires, the fears, the ambitions.
Right.
Or maybe he's just grown cynical, seeing the same patterns of, greed, violence, self-destruction, just repeating throughout history.
Yeah, I could see that.
Right.
Or, and this is a bit out there,
Okay.
maybe Demetri's actually developed a sense of empathy for the humans that he tracks.
Interesting.
He sees their flaws, their capacity for both good and evil.
Yeah.
But he also recognizes their fragility, their vulnerability.
The ultimate tracker, the one who can find anyone, anywhere,
Right.
is also the one who understands them most profoundly.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a really powerful concept.
It is. It is.
It makes you wonder,
Yeah.
if Demetri could choose, would he give up his tracking ability for a chance at, like, a normal life?
You know, that...
Would he trade power and immortality for, for the fleeting beauty and the genuine connections that come with being human?
Those are the kinds of questions that make Demetri such a rewarding character to analyze.
Yeah.
He forces us to confront these fundamental questions about freedom, power, the search for meaning in a world where everything can feel, predetermined.
Wow. That was a lot to unpack.
It was.
Just in part one.
Yeah.
We need to give you, our listener, a moment to absorb all this, this new information about Demetri.
Take it all in.
But when we come back, we'll be diving even deeper into those fan interpretations and exploring what Demetri's character can teach us about, shall we say, the vampire condition.
Sounds good.
Stay tuned for part 2. Welcome back. Before we left off, we were talking about all those intriguing fan interpretations of Demetri.
Oh, yeah.
The ones that kind of, flesh out his backstory and motivations in ways the books didn't really get into.
It's like, the fans sensed there was more to him.
Yeah.
Like a complexity hiding beneath that stoic surface.
Right, right.
And what's interesting is how those interpretations often reflect, like, different philosophical takes on Demetri's whole predicament.
Yeah.
Some see him as, like, this classic tragic figure,
right,
a victim of circumstance, robbed of free will by his own gift.
A Sophoclean hero, but in a vampire's cloak.
Exactly.
That's a pretty powerful image.
It is.
Is Demetri's tracking ability, is that like his own personal curse?
It could be.
His inescapable fate. It really challenges the whole idea of, like, vampire evolution.
Right.
That we see in, other characters.
Yeah.
Is Demetri even allowed to evolve?
That's a great question.
Right.
But then you have these interpretations that go in the complete opposite direction.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they paint him as far more, like, cunning and ambitious.
Okay, yeah.
They imagine him, like, subtly manipulating the system from within, using his knowledge to gain influence, almost like a power broker.
Oh, wow.
Operating in the shadows.
Okay, that's a fascinating take.
Yeah.
Is there anything in the original text, though, that actually supports that?
Well, the text is deliberately ambiguous about Demetri's true thoughts, his motivations.
Right.
But there are a few, like, subtle hints that could point to a more calculating side.
Oh.
For instance, remember how the source mentions the inherent distrust between Arrow and his guard?
Yeah.
It's not a stretch to imagine Demetri, kind of playing both sides, subtly shifting the balance of power to his advantage.
So he's not just a tracker. He's like this master manipulator.
Right.
Using his knowledge of everyone's secrets, weaknesses to influence the Volturi's decisions.
Exactly.
That adds a whole new dimension of intrigue to his character.
It does. It does. And it raises the question, if Demetri is capable of this level of cunning, what's his, like, end game?
Right.
Is he content with his current position, or is he, aiming for something more?
Right.
Maybe he's, like, biding his time, waiting for the perfect opportunity to seize power.
Oh, wow.
The text leaves it open.
Right.
And it's fascinating how fans have kind of filled in the blanks.
It's almost like Demetri's like a Rorschach test for Twilight fans.
I like that.
They project their own ideas about, ambition, free will, morality onto this blank canvas of a character.
Right. He's open to interpretation.
And you know what? I think that's part of what makes him so compelling.
It is.
He's not just a one-dimensional bad guy. He's a figure with hidden depths that I think we're still trying to understand.
Absolutely. And it all circles back to that theme of immortality we were discussing earlier.
Right.
Demetri's eternal existence, combined with this unique power, gives him a perspective on time, human behavior that most can't even fathom. He's witnessed empires rise and fall, countless lives play out, all while silently observing, tracking, maybe even, influencing events.
Okay, now I'm getting chills again.
It's pretty mind-blowing when you think about it.
He's like this ancient, this almost mythical figure watching humanity from the sidelines. What do you think he's learned from all those centuries of observation? What insights into the human condition has he, gleaned from constantly being inside other people's minds?
That's a profound question.
Right.
Maybe he's come to understand the fundamental motivations driving human behavior, the desires, the fears, the ambitions, or maybe he's grown cynical, seeing the same patterns of greed, violence, self-destruction just repeating throughout history.
I could see that.
Right.
Or, this is a bit out there.
Okay.
Maybe Demetri's actually developed a sense of empathy for the humans that he tracks.
Interesting.
He sees their flaws, their capacity for both good and evil.
Yeah.
But he also recognizes their fragility.
Okay.
Their vulnerability.
The ultimate tracker.
Right.
The one who can find anyone, anywhere, is also the one who understands them most profoundly.
That's a really powerful idea.
It is.
It makes you wonder, if Demetri could choose, would he give up his tracking ability for a chance at like a normal life? Would he trade like power and immortality for the fleeting beauty, the genuine connections that come with being human?
Those are the kinds of questions that make Demetri such a rewarding character to analyze, to think about.
Right.
He forces us to confront these fundamental questions about freedom, about power, about the search for meaning in a world that, can feel predetermined.
It's safe to say that Demetri, despite his relatively, minor role in the Twilight Saga, is a character who really, really sticks with you.
Absolutely. And it's a testament to Stephenie Meyer's storytelling.
Yeah.
That even a seemingly secondary character can spark these deep and thought-provoking discussions.
Right. Well, I'm officially obsessed with Demetri now.
I can tell.
I need to go back and reread those books with this newfound perspective.
Yeah, definitely.
But before we send our listener off to do the same, what's like one key takeaway you want them to remember from this deep dive?
I hope our listener remembers this. Even in a world of, vampires and werewolves and ancient prophecies, it's the human, or, in this case, the vampire element that truly resonates Demetri's story, even if it's, mostly unwritten.
Yeah.
Reminds us that even the most powerful beings are driven by the same desires, fears, insecurities as the rest of us.
Like that.
Beneath the surface of every character, no matter how seemingly minor, lies a story waiting to be told.
Yeah.
A story that can connect us to deeper truths about ourselves and the world around us.
That is a perfect note to end on.
Glad you think so.
So, listener, what are your thoughts on Demetri? Did this deep dive change your perception of him at all?
Yeah, let us know.
Share your theories, your interpretations, your fan art. Who knows? Maybe your ideas will inspire the next great Demetri fanfic.
It could happen.
Until next time, happy deep diving.